Imagine being told you will never walk again. Would you give up or fight back? This is the true story of Muniba Mazari, the woman who turned her deepest pain into unstoppable power. Welcome to Easy English Official. Today, we will share a story that can change the way you see life. It is the story of Muniba Mazari, a woman who faced tragedy but chose courage. Her life shows us that even in the darkest moments, there is always a spark of light waiting to shine. This video is more than just English learning, it is inspiration. You will not only practice simple English, but you will also discover lessons that can guide your own journey. Stay with us until the end, because Muniba's story is full of hope, strength, and unforgettable wisdom. Chapter 1. The Dark Fall. Life can change in just one moment, and for Muniba Mazari, that moment came when she was only 21 years old. She was full of dreams, colors, and hopes for the future. She wanted to paint, to create, and to inspire people with her art. But fate had a different plan for her, one that would test every part of her spirit. She was traveling with her husband when their car met with a terrible accident. In just a few seconds, her whole world broke apart like glass. The crash was violent and cruel, leaving her body weak and broken. When the dust settled, Muniba's life would never be the same again. Her spine was injured in 2 places, a wound that would silence her legs forever. The doctors told her that she would never be able to walk again. Those words were like knives, cutting deep into her heart. Her future, as she had imagined it, seemed to vanish in that instant. Lying in a hospital bed, she faced the darkness of hopelessness. Every dream she had painted in her mind felt lost in the shadows. Her body was paralyzed, and her spirit was shaken. She wondered if her life had ended before it had even truly begun. The white walls of the hospital felt like a prison. She could not move without help, not even sit up by herself. The strong and independent girl she once was had disappeared. She had become someone who needed others for everything, even the smallest action. The doctors did not give her any hope. They said she would live her life in a wheelchair, always dependent on others. They even said she would never be able to paint again. It felt as if her entire identity had been taken away in a single moment. Her dreams of being an artist felt like a cruel joke. How could a girl who could not move her body create art? How could she reach the canvas, hold the brush, or bring colors to life? These painful questions circled in her mind every single day. Her family tried to encourage her, but even their words often felt empty. Nothing could take away the pain she felt inside. Her life had changed from joy and color to silence and tears. The world outside was moving forward, but her world had stopped. Muniba felt trapped in her own body. She could hear the sound of her heart, heavy with sadness, every night. She cried not only for her broken body, but also for her broken dreams. It seemed like there was no light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes she thought about giving up completely. What was the point of living if life had no meaning? What was the point of breathing if every breath was filled with pain? She was lost in a storm of fear and despair. But in that dark room, something inside her refused to die. There was a small voice in her heart whispering that this was not the end. Even though her body was weak, her spirit was still alive. Somewhere deep inside, she wanted to fight back. Her nights were long, filled with silence and endless thoughts. She imagined her life before the accident, the times she laughed and walked freely. The contrast was too painful to accept, and yet those memories also gave her a reason to survive. Every time she looked at her reflection, she saw a different person. The girl who once dreamed big was hidden behind sadness. But slowly, she began to realize that she still had choices. She could either let the accident define her, or she could define herself again. It was not easy to think positively while lying in bed with broken bones. Yet Muniba started to understand that her mind was still free. Her spirit was still strong, even if her body was not. This thought gave her the smallest spark of hope. She began to look around the hospital with new eyes. Instead of only seeing walls, she saw colors she could paint. Instead of only hearing pain, she tried to hear her inner voice telling her to rise again. Slowly, she began to believe in herself. Muniba's journey in Chapter 1 is not about victory yet. It is about the painful fall that made her stronger later. Without the accident, she would never have found her true power. But at that moment, she only felt the weight of her broken dreams. The accident had destroyed her body, but it also planted the seed of change. She was being forced to face her fears, her limits, and her doubts. And through this struggle, she would discover a strength she never knew she had. She began to realize that the world had taken away her legs, but not her imagination. Her dreams were still alive, waiting to be reborn. This thought became a candle in the darkness of her pain. Muniba's darkest days became the foundation of her future light. Even though she was paralyzed, she was not powerless. Even though she had lost her ability to walk, she had not lost her ability to dream. And so, Chapter 1 of her story ends not with hope fully found, but with the spark of hope refusing to die. It was the beginning of a long journey where pain would slowly turn into power and tragedy would slowly turn into triumph. Chapter 2. The Art of Pain. Pain can destroy people, but for some, it becomes the reason to rise again. For Muniba, the long hours in the hospital slowly changed her heart. She began to ask herself, is this the end of my story, or the start of a new one? That single question became the seed of transformation. She looked at her hands, the only part of her body she could move freely. If her legs had failed her, maybe her hands could still carry her dreams. With trembling fingers, she imagined holding a brush once again. That simple thought gave her a reason to breathe. One morning, she asked for colors and brushes to be brought to her bed. The nurses and family were surprised, wondering what she could possibly do in that condition. But Muniba knew that if she could not stand before a canvas, she would let the canvas come to her. It was her way of fighting back. The first strokes were not easy. Her body was in pain, her back weak, and her hand shook from the effort. Yet, on that canvas, her sadness started to take shape. Every line, every color carried her tears, her anger, and her broken dreams. Painting from her hospital bed, she discovered something new. Her art no longer belonged only to beauty. It belonged to her pain. Through her brush, she found a way to speak without words. The colors became her voice when her soul felt silent. Her paintings were not just pictures, they were emotions. Some showed women with broken wings but shining eyes. Some showed sunsets where the darkness refused to win. Others showed scars that looked painful but also powerful. Each one was a mirror of her soul. She realized that when she accepted her pain, it stopped controlling her. Instead, it became her power. She said to herself, I cannot walk, but I can still fly with my imagination. That mindset began to change everything around her. As days turned into months, her paintings filled the room with life. Visitors who came to see her no longer saw only a patient in a wheelchair. They saw an artist brave enough to turn tragedy into art. They left inspired, carrying her message of strength. Her journey taught her that disability is not the end of ability. It is only the beginning of a new kind of strength. With every canvas, she showed that beauty can rise from brokenness. She began to believe that her accident was not a punishment, but a new path. Soon, people beyond the hospital began to notice her art. Exhibitions invited her, and her name started to travel across cities. Each time her paintings were displayed, her story traveled with them. She was no longer only a patient. She was becoming a symbol of resilience. Forbes recognized her talent and named her in the list of 30 under 30. It was a proud moment, not just for Muniba, but for every person who had been told they were not enough. Her success was living proof that limits exist only in the mind. Her achievements opened doors she never imagined. She was chosen as the first national ambassador for UN Women in Pakistan. In this role, she spoke for women, for the disabled, and for anyone who felt their voice was lost. She carried their stories as if they were her own. But behind the honors and titles, her true power was simple. It was the courage to pick up a brush again after the world said she could not. It was the courage to accept her scars, not hide them. It was the courage to paint her truth even when it hurt. Her art became more than personal healing. It became a movement. People with disabilities saw her and felt proud. Women facing struggles saw her and felt stronger. Her story connected to anyone who had ever faced darkness and longed for light. She taught people that scars are not weaknesses. They are proof that you have survived. Her wheelchair was no longer a symbol of loss, but a throne of resilience. She wore her scars with dignity, showing that beauty lies in strength, not perfection. The girl who once cried for her lost dreams had now created new ones. She was no longer only a painter. She was a warrior with colors. Her brush was her sword, her canvas her battlefield, and her art her victory. Even when her body was tired, she did not stop. She painted for hours because every painting gave her another reason to live. She did not wait for happiness to come to her. She created happiness through every stroke of color. The accident had tried to take her life away, but through art, she built a new one. Her paintings told the world that brokenness is not the end. It can be the beginning of beauty. This was her message, one that spread far beyond her hospital walls. Through her art, Muniba Mazari proved that pain can become power. She showed that even when the body is limited, the human spirit is infinite. Her story in this chapter is not just about survival. It is about transformation, creation, and the courage to dream again. And so, Chapter 2 closes with colors shining brighter than ever. The girl who thought her life was over had found a new life in art. She painted not only to heal herself, but to heal the world. Her pain had truly become her power. Chapter 3. The amazing power of words. When Muniba found her strength through painting, she also discovered another gift inside her. She realized that her voice had the power to heal, just like her art. Her story was not meant to stay silent on the canvas. It was meant to be spoken, shared, and felt by the world. At first, she was shy to speak in public. She wondered if anyone would even listen to a woman in a wheelchair. But her pain had taught her courage, and her art had taught her truth. Slowly, she found the confidence to stand before audiences with her words. When she began to speak, people were surprised by her honesty. She did not hide her scars or her struggles. She spoke openly about her accident, her fears, and her moments of hopelessness. Her truth connected with hearts in a way that polished speeches never could. In one of her most powerful talks, she said, "I am disabled. I can't walk, but I can fly." These words touched millions around the world. They carried hope to those who felt broken, and strength to those who thought their lives were over. Her voice was not just about motivation. It was about showing reality and courage at the same time. She told people that sadness is real, pain is real, but giving up is a choice. Her words reminded us that limits are not in the body, but in the mind. As she spoke on bigger stages, her influence grew. Students, teachers, parents, and leaders all listened to her story. Each person left with a new belief. If Muniba could rise from tragedy, then anyone could rise from difficulty. Her TED Talk became one of the most shared inspirational speeches. People replayed her words again and again, feeling a spark of hope each time. Her wheelchair, once a symbol of loss, became the stage of a warrior. She spoke sitting down, yet her words stood taller than mountains. She told people not to wait for life to be perfect before they start living. She reminded them that broken dreams can still lead to beautiful destinations. She said, "We are all stories in progress, and pain is just one chapter, not the whole book." Through her words, she became more than an artist. She became a storyteller, a teacher, and a leader of hope. Her speeches turned into medicine for hearts that had forgotten how to dream. She gave people permission to believe in themselves again. She often spoke about scars and how they tell stories of survival. She told her listeners that scars are not ugly. They are signs of strength. These messages helped people accept their own pain and wear it with pride instead of shame. Her words traveled across borders, beyond Pakistan, into the hearts of millions worldwide. Videos of her speeches went viral, gaining millions of views. People from every culture and language understood her message, because hope speaks a universal language. For many young girls, Muniba became a role model. She showed them that beauty is not only in walking tall, but in standing strong with dignity. Her courage encouraged women everywhere to dream beyond limits placed by society. Her speeches also gave strength to people with disabilities. She showed them that a wheelchair is not an end, but a new beginning. Many wrote to her, saying that her story gave them courage to study, to work, and to live without shame. Muniba's power of words was not about being perfect. Sometimes her voice shook, sometimes her eyes filled with tears, but that made her even more real. Her honesty was her greatest strength, and people trusted her because she never pretended to be someone else. She reminded the world that true leadership comes from vulnerability. By sharing her pain, she became relatable to everyone. People saw their own struggles in her words, and that made them feel less alone. Her story became their story too. Her speeches often ended with a smile, showing that even after tragedy, happiness is possible. She told people to never let their fears steal their joy. She showed them that the human spirit is stronger than any accident or disability. As her influence spread, organizations invited her to speak on global stages. She spoke not just about herself, but for all who had no voice. She spoke for the poor, the disabled, and the forgotten, giving them a place in the conversation. Through the power of her words, Muniba Mazari transformed from an artist into an icon. She did not only paint on canvas, she painted hope on the hearts of people. Her speeches became living masterpieces that touched millions more than any brush could. Chapter 3 of her journey shows us that words can change the world. A voice that comes from pain can reach further than we imagine. Muniba's story proves that sometimes the most powerful speeches are not learned in books, but in the scars of life. And so, this chapter closes with her voice still echoing across the globe. She showed us that brokenness does not silence us. It gives us a reason to speak louder. Her words are living proof that even when the body is weak, the voice of the soul can fly. Chapter 4 Lessons for Tomorrow. Every great story is not just about the person who lived it. A true story also carries lessons for everyone who listens. Muniba's journey is not only her own, it is a guide for all of us. From her pain and power, we can learn how to face our own lives. The first lesson is about acceptance. Life does not always give us what we expect. Accidents, failures, and losses can happen to anyone. But if we accept reality with courage, we can rise above it. Acceptance is the first step to freedom. Muniba accepted that she could not walk again. Instead of denying her condition, she embraced it. This acceptance gave her peace, and with peace, she found the strength to create. Her story teaches us that acceptance does not mean weakness. It means bravery. The second lesson is about turning pain into opportunity. Every struggle hides a secret gift. Pain can either break us or it can shape us into something stronger. When we face hardship, we can use it as fuel to discover new paths. Muniba's art was born from her pain. Without the accident, she might never have painted the way she did. Her wheelchair became the place where masterpieces were created. This lesson tells us that pain can become the birthplace of greatness. The third lesson is about hope. Hope is the light that never dies, even in the darkest rooms. Without hope, life feels empty. With hope, even impossible things become possible. Hope is the key to surviving storms. Muniba never lost her hope, even when doctors said her life was over. That small spark inside her heart kept her alive. It gave her the courage to paint, to speak, and to inspire. She showed the world that hope is stronger than despair. Another lesson from her story is that success is not about walking fast. It is about moving forward, no matter how slow. Progress is progress, even if it takes time. What matters is that we never stop trying. Muniba's progress was slow. Learning to paint from bed was not easy. Speaking in front of crowds took courage, yet step by step, she built her new life. Her journey proves that small steps can lead to great destinations. She also teaches us the value of scars. Many people hide their scars out of shame, but Muniba showed her scars with pride. She said they were signs of survival, not weakness. From her, we learn to see beauty in imperfection. Her story reminds us to never let society define us. People told her she was finished, but she proved them wrong. The world will always have opinions, but only we can decide our future. Muniba chose to write her own story. Another lesson is about service. True success is not only about personal growth. It is about lifting others as well. Muniba became a voice for women, for the disabled, and for the forgotten. She turned her victory into a gift for humanity. She also showed that leadership comes from honesty. She did not pretend to be perfect. She shared her pain and her struggles openly. People trusted her because she was real. This is a lesson for all of us. Honesty connects hearts. From her journey, we also learn about the power of creativity. Art was not just a hobby for Muniba, it was her medicine. Creativity can heal, inspire, and transform. It reminds us that expression is a way to survive even the hardest times. Her speeches teach us that words are powerful. A single sentence can change a life. The right words can give someone hope to keep living. We must choose our words carefully because they have the power to heal or hurt. Another important lesson is to never give up on dreams. Dreams may change shape, but they never die. Muniba's dream was to create, and she still fulfilled it in a new way. We too must protect our dreams, even if they look different from what we imagined. Her story tells young people to be brave in facing challenges. Life will always bring tests, but courage makes the difference. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is moving forward even while afraid. Muniba's courage shines in every chapter of her life. She reminds us that true beauty lies in strength. The world often values physical perfection, but Muniba showed that real beauty is in the heart. A strong spirit, a hopeful smile, and a kind soul are more beautiful than anything else. Her journey is proof that one person can inspire millions. You don't need to be perfect to make a difference. You just need to be real, strong, and willing to share your truth. We all have the power to inspire, just like Muniba. And finally, the greatest lesson is this: pain does not end your story. Pain can be the beginning of something new. Muniba's life shows us that tragedy can lead to triumph and weakness can lead to strength. Every ending can be a new start. So Chapter 4 closes with wisdom for tomorrow. Accept life bravely, turn pain into opportunity, and never lose hope. These are the lessons that Muniba Mazari leaves for us. Her story is not just about her, it is a mirror for us all to see our own strength. Thank you for watching Easy English Official. Muniba Mazari's journey teaches us 3 big lessons: accept life bravely, turn pain into opportunity, and never lose hope. These are not just her lessons, they are gifts for all of us to carry in our daily lives. If her story touched your heart, remember to share it with someone who needs hope today. And don't forget to subscribe to Easy English Official for more simple, powerful stories that help you learn English and grow stronger in life. Your next chapter begins now.